To create a timeline, we'll firstly select a project. We go to the project section. We select the project for which we want to create a timeline. Then we go to the timeline section from the left hand side panel. Over here, we click on create timeline either on this button or on the button on the top right. I would add a timeline name. So this could be testing timeline 1. Okay. Once this has been created, our editor will open up. As you can see, our timeline is in the draft stage, right? We will go on by creating the timeline tasks, right? Firstly, we'll create a phase. So it could be phase 1, that is reconstruction. Okay. Then under this phase, there would be the first main task. So the main task would be site survey and marking, right? Then there could be another task in this that could be soil testing, then design and approval. Okay. So now as you can see that for every task we have individual planned start and planned end, and it is just calculating the entire range of this particular phase based on the first planned start and the last planned end date, right? Now we will go on by adding subtasks. So each main task could have like a checklist or a list of subtasks that we can add. So in this scenario, we can have land measurement over here. Okay. We can have boundary identification. We can have benchmark fixing. Okay. And then we can have site marking. Similarly, for soil testing, we can also have uh, multiple subtasks over here. So in soil testing, we can have bore sampling. Okay. We can have soil collection, lab testing, and soil report submission. All right. So now we have created our main tasks under a particular phase. So this is our first phase, that is the pre-construction phase, under which there are total of 12 tasks. And this phase is supposed to start on 11 June and end on 11 June, right? Under this phase, we have main tasks, and under main tasks, we also have some subtasks. So first, we'll go on by adding accurate timelines, right? So land measurement 11 June can be done in 1 day. Boundary identification, let's say, it takes again 1 day, but it is supposed to start on the 12th of June. So I can simply select 12th of June over here. Or I can also do it in such a manner where that boundary identification is linked to land measurement, right? So let's say my land measurement was supposed to end on 11 June, and my boundary identification will only start after land measurement has been completed. So I can select a predecessor task. I can select land measurement over here, and I can select finish to start. So finish to start dependency basically means that the finish date of the this particular task, that is land measurement, finish date would be the start date of boundary identification 1 day after that. So let's say I save changes. Okay. So now as you can see that immediately after land measurement has been completed on 11 June, 12th June, my boundary identification has started. In case the timeline for this changes to let's say 13 June, then boundary identification will start from 14th June, right? So in this manner, we can add predecessor tasks so that we can have an accurate timeline where we don't have to change the time again and again. We do it once for repetitive tasks, and we can then use it like multiple times. Now, after boundary identification, we can have benchmark fixing, right? So, benchmark fixing basically starts on the same day as boundary identification. These two tasks are linked. So, benchmark fixing is related to boundary identification. I want both the start dates to be the same. Okay, that is boundary identification and benchmark fixing start dates would be same. Okay, I click on save changes. And now my benchmark fixing and boundary identification start on the same day. If by any case the boundary identification timeline is changed, then even the benchmark fixing date would be changed, right? Uh, yes. Then site marking. Site marking is again linked to boundary identification. Okay. And site marking would basically start after benchmark fixing is completed. So we'll again select finish to start. That means that once benchmark fixing has finished, only then site marking will start. So as you can see that now we have a dynamic timeline over here. So if there is any change in the first task, let's say that is land measurement, was scheduled from 11 June to 11 June. Let's say this changes from 11 June to 13th June, right? So in that scenario, all the tasks associated with that would automatically change. It will go ahead forward. So that means now my boundary identification starts from 14 June. Benchmark and boundary identification has the same start date. So both start from 14 June now. And site marking starts only after benchmark fixing has ended. So it starts again from 15 June, right? Now, coming to soil testing, again in soil testing, we can similarly link all the predecessor tasks, right? And we can have like a very dynamic timeline associated with that. Now, we have to assign these tasks to the employees of the organization. So, in our scenario, let's say that I take land measurement, boundary identification, bore sampling, and soil collection would be performed by the same person. So, I can simply select these tasks over here from the checkbox and I can click on assign and I can select any particular team member. All right. So, it will assign these tasks in bulk to the team members that we have selected. Apart from that, if let's say benchmark fixing is going to be performed by somebody else, we can select from here again, right? And let's say site marking is supposed to be done by a subcontractor, right? So we'll select like the subcontractor name or the vendor name over here, right? Once we have selected that, we'll also select an assignee. So this assignee will basically make sure that the vendor or the subcontractor is doing their tasks on time and will be reporting to the organization, right? So in my scenario, I'll just assign to the same person. Okay. Uh, yeah. So once that is done, you can see here that wherever the task has been subcontracted, we have added a vendor. Wherever we have assigned any particular employee, we have put up their name, right? Delayed by is basically the number of days the task has been delayed. So let's say the task was supposed to end on 11 June, but we completed on the 13th June. So there is a delay of 2 days. So the delay by will automatically fill 2 days over here. Actual start and actual end gets captured like whenever there is an update on the progress of the task. So the first time you make a task update or a progress update on the task, the actual start date is captured, and whenever the task is 100% completed, the actual end date is captured. From that, we can figure out the number of days that has been spent to perform the particular task, right? Once you have created this timeline, you can also view it in a Gantt view or in a Gantt chart. When you click on this, you can simply see that you have this one particular phase. When you expand it, you can see the main tasks. When you expand the main tasks, you can see the subtasks. Whenever a task has been linked, you can see that this particular task has been linked from here. So that means that this particular task will start like with land measurement. Now the end of this is the start of this, right? So from here you can see whatever tasks are linked to each other, right? Uh, yeah. You can also change the view over here. You can see it on a day by day basis. You can see it on a weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, and a yearly basis, right? Or an hourly basis as well. So every day, based on the time, you can see the Gantt for that. By clicking on more action, you can also export this as a PDF, as an Excel, or as a Gantt view, right? Apart from that, assuming that this is a sample timeline that can be used for multiple projects, we can also save it as a template. So when I click on save as template, I can save it as a template, and the name could be, let's say, testing template. Okay, this is one way. Now, how to use a template is very simple. When I create a new timeline, let's say over here, okay, I can simply import the template, and it will ask me to select a start date and the end date. If I leave it blank, whatever was the start date and the end date in my like when this template was created would be captured. But if I now select let's say 20th June as the start date, then whenever the timeline tasks are imported, it would start from 20th June and everything would be auto calculated as per that. So as you can see here, this has been now starting from 20th June. Okay. All these tasks are automatically based as per the number of days, and whatever the last predecessor was. You can now choose to change the predecessor over here. You can add predecessors again to maybe link them, right? If in case there are new linkages with different tasks over here. So in this manner, you can simply create like the timeline again. As you can see, our vendor and our assigned to have been imported again from the template, right? Now coming back to my testing timeline one, uh, over here, you can once you're satisfied with the particular template that everything is in place and this is good to go and you can assign these tasks to the assigned individuals. You can simply click on publish, okay, and you can publish the timeline if you have the authority. If not, you can request approval from your manager. So when you click on request approval, you can select the name of the senior person who you want to take an approval from. We have two options, single approval and a hierarchy approval. Okay, so in a single approval, what happens is basically whatever the name of the person you select, once they approve, the timeline is published. In a hierarchy approval, you have to select two people, okay, and when both of them approve, only then the timeline has been published. Since I have the authority to publish the timeline here, I will simply click on publish. Okay. So now as you can see, this timeline has been published. When you go to projects and you go to the summary, you can see the timeline over here itself. Like out of 11 tasks, how many have been completed. Okay. Uh, yeah. So in this manner, you can simply import a timeline or you can create a timeline and you can save it as a template. These timeline tasks are now visible to like the assigned members in their task section itself, right? So now they can simply mark the progress like they do for the tasks on an individual basis, right? You can also see the tasks over here, the upcoming tasks over here on your dashboard, which have been imported from the timeline.